I got a trophy from this guy where it was officially handed out from Wizards of the Coast to the guy for a go-kart race that they had out behind their building. Like it, and there was T-shirts in there, and there was like coffee mugs and pins and different things like that.
Welcome back, guys, to the PokeRadar podcast. Today we have one of my favorite people in the Pokemon hobby. He was on the podcast way back in the day, and he is really the person we all want to be when we grow up. We have Rusty, TCA Gaming. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Busy as usual.
Yeah, just okay. Not good, not great, not bad. Just okay. Just pretty level day for you.
So far, I plan to be outside working as soon as we're done here. So my wife, she's ready for me to work on the fire pit.
Well, you've got quite a bit of outdoor things to work on. I had the pleasure, as well as some others, of hanging out with you over at your house in Charlotte, or just outside of Charlotte there during the Collecticon weekend. You invited myself and a few other collectors to have a day and enjoy Pokemon, enjoy your collection, enjoy your family, your food, just a really great hangout. And yeah, you've got a decent amount of land and a decent amount of projects that I think you can work on for your whole life there. So yeah, you tore down a tree with Rattle. I mean, I got to hoop a lot on your basketball court, which I'm sure that was a pretty big project. Yeah. And then you've got all those trees and trails in the background that you're driving your four-wheelers through. Is this fire pit going to be nice and extravagant and big, like concrete all over, or is it just going to be a little, I guess, wood plank kind of typical backyard fire pit?
Probably a little bit of something in between. So my wife, her brother actually has access to a laser cutter and also steel, and they have a way of rolling the steel and welding it. So what we do is we get a 30-inch, it's probably, I think it's 3/8 thick steel. I mean, it's strong steel, and he can laser engrave whatever we want. Normally we get our kids' names put in it. I know you guys might not have had a chance to see the fire pit we had up top beside the pavilion or that little shelter, but it'll probably be something similar to that. We're going to have like a 30-inch tall metal. It's laser engraved. I mean, they're like $55. I mean, they weigh like 80 pounds. I mean, it's crazy. And then that'll be the fire ring, and then we're probably going to put some rock around it, and then maybe some bigger river rock on the outside, just to kind of keep it contained. Because if I don't have that fire ring, I'm going to make a giant fire. So that'll keep it to where it's nice. And what's cool about having those letters in the metal ring is you can actually set down your s'mores on rocks on the outside of the fire underneath and let the chocolate melt onto the graham cracker, so that when your marshmallow is ready, you can stick it right on there and everything's melted and you're not biting into cold chocolate.
I like this. You're thinking ahead. You're thinking for the s'more making. Mm-hmm. Also the safety of your kids, of course, not making too big of fires. But the s'more making is very important. What kind of s'mores guy are you? I like to put Reese's peanut butter cups on my s'mores.
That sounds really good, but I'm not even that big on eating the s'mores. I just like making them. I sit there and I slowly brown the marshmallow, let it go from, one size of like a gumball all the way up to, a small apple. And then, once it starts turning on the stick, then it's done in the middle, and then you smash it all on there so that when whoever bites into it, it just splatters everywhere.
Well, that's the next thing. You've got the patient marshmallow cookers, the ones who want to make it cooked all the way through, nice and brown, and then you got the guys who just light it on fire to get it cooked as fast as possible, so you can eat as many s'mores as possible too. I love a good bonfire. I mean, I'm from Michigan originally, so we got a lot of woods, a lot of lakes, a lot of hunting, a lot of outdoorsy activities. At least when the weather's good. So a nice bonfire was a great way to end the night almost at any time during the year.
Well, a good thing about having a fire ring and keeping it small, the other side of that is you don't want to have the fire too big, because you want to be able to sit near the fire while you set up like a projector screen so you can watch movies outside and stuff. And if it's too big, then the ashes and the smoke and the heat can kind of really affect that. But you also want to be close to it because during the summer down here, the cicadas are so loud, you can't do too much of the outdoor movie stuff because,
Oh,
I mean, they're like 140 decibels or something crazy when they get to singing all together. But during the winter, they're already gone. You really only have the crickets to deal with in the fall. So there's a lot of little things that you would think shouldn't go into building this, but we try to think ahead on a little bit of it so that we can set all these different things up and, just be able to
man.
enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was jokingly saying that I'd love to move in next door because you have all these fun toys, and the basketball court again was something I enjoyed way too much. But yeah, man, that's the dream. What you got going on over there? That's out kind of away from a lot of noise. You got your own land. You got a lot of freedom to mess around and do a lot of things with your hands. I mean, you have some crazy excavating tools as well out there
Yeah.
to level out the ground and kind of build whatever you want. But man, yeah, you got a great setup out there. It's so cool to see. I mean, I appreciate you having us all out there. Way overly generous. The rest of your way too generous to everybody. I mean,
Well, I've been blessed equally so much, man. It's like I come from basically nothing. So I mean, all this stuff, like even if it all burned down and all went away, like we'd be fine. Like we'd figure out a way. Like this is just stuff that's going to be passed on to somebody else one day.
yeah. Well, we talked about this again a few years ago. Kind of your story with coming up in your really your life, but Pokemon. Um, you know, you said you grew up. Um, well, you're still living near where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
You grew up in a trailer park, right?
I grew up so first 6 years of my life, I was on the east part of the state, and then my mom and dad they went to split because my dad he was doing like drug stuff. Somebody actually shooting into the house, and uh, they split for a couple of weeks. We didn't really have a home at that time. We went and lived with her
Mhm.
dad for a few weeks, but then they got back together, and we decided that we were just going to move away from that part of the state, get away from all the drugs and stuff. And we come up to Hickory, and right outside of Hickory in Hildebrand, North Carolina, we stopped at Loman's Motel. Didn't have any money, and the guy there, his name is Daryl, he threw my family a bone. He let us stay there for a week with no rent. I mean, and so we stayed there, and he ended up finding a job at Carolina Container, which is a local factory place, and we lived in the motel there for 6 months. I mean, and four people all in one room. It sounds
Yeah.
crazy, but back then we didn't care. I mean, I used to love. I'd go to the dumpsters. I've told this before. I'd pull out the beer cans and put them around my shoes and walk around like I was a spaceman, outside. But I would take the beer cans and pour them out into the little puddles and stuff from like the mud that was made from where the cars would pull in and out of the driveway. Because I mean, everything was dirt and mud back then, and
Mhm.
but it was nice. And then eventually we upgraded. We rented from the house that was next door to the motel, same owner, for $500 a month, and we stayed in that house until my father died. And this place, I mean, it was built in 1943. It was oil forced air heat, but like I didn't have a shower till I was 16. Like the
Wow.
pipes were so rusted and corroded shut that you couldn't even have a shower. And then even when we did, because we didn't have the money to replace the pipes and the rent definitely didn't cover it. Um, like the water would just trickle out in the bathroom. It was just cold water for where the sink was. You could get hot water in the tub, but I was a bath teenager. Like showers were like revolutionary to me when we finally got one of those when we were 16. And the only reason we got a shower is because my brother, who was overseas, he he had a kid, and he was fighting in the war in Iraq, and
Mhm.
his wife needed a place to stay. So this is a 2-bedroom house. It was me and my brother, my mom and my dad. We had a dog and several cats that all lived inside. And then she moved into our room with my nephew. And so she needed a shower. So she helped install a shower. But like I slept on the couch with my dog until I went off to college. Like
Wow.
I slept with the same Winnie the Pooh blanket. I never watched Winnie the Pooh, but I love
Uh-huh.
that thing. And the reason I slept in the living room was because it had an air conditioner. We didn't have air, so that was the coldest room in the house. Otherwise, you were just hot and you had your windows open, and you just let whatever fly in, fly in. I mean, we had wasp nests in the corner of the windows every now and then. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about old glass, but it's actually made up of like it doesn't have the zinc added to it, so it's technically a liquid and it's thicker at the bottom. So that way, when you break it, it shatters into these giant shards or whatever. I mean, we broke the
Yeah.
windows so many times in that house. It's not like new windows where they're tempered and they have the zinc that's added into it, and all these other things. And so, we never really knew that we didn't have money until I went to apply for college. And when I went to apply for college, they're like, oh, yeah, you're over 200% below the poverty line. We can easily take care of all these fees. We'll get you grants and stuff. So that's when I realized, hey, maybe not everybody, has that much money. But it was like that with everybody around me. There were people that I'd go spend the night over at their house. They'd be in a trailer park or wherever. And I didn't think two things of it. But then I go open up the refrigerator and they'd have a pitcher of water. And that would be it. There'd be no food, no nothing. And so I always thought that, we had it really good because we still always had food. A lot of nights were potluck where you just found whatever you wanted. But still, we were nowhere near as bad off as a lot of the other people that were in this area.
Wow. I mean, that's truly, truly very humble beginnings there. I mean, not having a shower until you're 16. I remember, I complained about not having a phone until I was 16, that type of thing. It's incredible how your perspective of life. I mean, it's really, especially when you're younger, you don't know anything outside of that world you're in, that couple mile radius, the families, the friends that you're around. Like, it's really, really incredible how you're just kind of blinded to everything else that's going on out in the world.
When you're a kid, you don't know any different.
Yeah, I mean, you don't care. You're like you said, you're looking out for anything you can. You dive into the dumpster to find something to play with. I remember finding a trampoline on the side of the road that me and my friends picked up, put in the back of the truck, and took it home. And my mom came outside, jumped on it a couple of times, and said, "Get rid of this. It's too dangerous." So
I busted a few trampolines in my day.
I mean, that's where I broke my first bone. I jumped off a trampoline and broke my collarbone. So my mom was not a fan of having a trampoline at the house.
Yeah, we used to jump off the roof and try to land on the trampoline.
Then where would you go? Into the pool? Into the lake?
Well, you would try to land, but so the way it worked out, there was a 2-story house that was beside of us. It was technically the landlord's house. You could jump off of the roof there onto the trampoline, and then if you couldn't land back on the trampoline, like there was a hill on the other side, but you could jump down. But we were really used, like we'd get out there and jump all day, man. I was used to jumping as high as I could, double bouncing yourself, and then jumping off the trampoline onto the grass. Like my knees were like just really used to it, and so were my brother and everybody else is like. I remember one of my friends, he set up he had a trampoline in flat ground because this wasn't around flat ground where I was doing all this stuff. He had a basketball goal. Man, we would just like jump as high as we could, get as much air. I mean, you felt like you were flying and you'd go to dunk that thing, which sometimes that could be a little dangerous. You kind of want to jump off to the side of the basketball goal, almost like have it perpendicular because that leaves you some landing room. Because if you hit it straight on, you're just running into that pole, and that is not fun. But I mean, you bounce off everything at that age.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We at one point we just grabbed a little Nerf hoop to put at because we would have a net around the trampoline, and we'd take a little Nerf hoop and we put it on the top of the net. We'd doing 720s, double between the legs. Yeah. All types of stuff, man.
The front flip is where it would get dangerous because you could get your hook. You think about your foot getting hooked into the basketball rim.
Doing the Vince Carter, but with your leg.
Yeah, but these basketball goals, they were movable. So I mean, they weren't. Yeah. Well, ours weren't in the ground, so that thing would come down with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ones with fill with water or sand or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we had concrete blocks on ours because we busted it. We busted it pretty quick.
Yeah, dude, I think we would have been good friends back in the day. I mean, you also played basketball in high school, right? You said.
Well, I didn't play for the school. I never played for any school for basketball, but I was always, pretty good. Like I got to practice, like when they would be in the gym and I'd be in PE or whatever. Sometimes they'd ask me to come over and practice with them. And he said that if I went out for the team, I would have made it. But the thing is, we honestly didn't have the money for it. Like just the shoes and the uniforms and the traveling. I was focused on getting all A's because I knew that if I didn't get all A's, I was never going to go to college. Like I wanted to optimize my chances for going to college. And whether or not I would have liked being on a basketball team, I don't know. I had a lot of fun in rec basketball. And then when I went out to college, I played with some rec teams there. We ended up winning the Residential Hall Championship for NC State. We went undefeated, man. That was a fun time. and we
Yeah.
got to play against the college school, but they just destroyed us
Yeah.
because there's a big difference between just like a residential hall team and a college team.
Oh, it's massive. I always got to the championship in the res league. But never won it. Both for like the co-ed, for the men's league, for all of it. I would always get to the championship, and I never won. But yeah, I got to play with the men's team at Michigan State for a little bit. And woof, it's a different world.
Yeah,
They are men among boys. It's unbelievable how just they're just bigger and stronger and faster, and how long. It's unbelievable. Like I couldn't get a shot off. I would have like I'd be playing against Gary Harris, and he'd be down at like the block. I'm shooting a 3-pointer. I'm so used to someone's down there. I could just take my time, shoot it, no problem. But he'd get there in a half a second and block my shot. It's unbelievable how different that level of athlete is. And then take it to the pros again above that. It's a whole nother world. But yeah, man. So that's amazing. I mean, really, really, again, humble beginnings in diving into Pokemon to become one of the, if not the top eBay seller of Pokemon cards, or at least reseller. I know there's a couple of the modern box sellers like P Football Pete who does a lot more.
Yeah,
but,
they destroy my sales. I'm sure Z&G's destroying my sales by now too.
Oh, you think so? Well, I guess he's gone really deep into the consignment world and head first into that. I know you do some consignment, but you obviously have built your business off of your own inventory. You're buying and selling over the past 15 years? How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, 2008 is when I first started on eBay. So like that's my where am I at?
Oh, right there. Yeah.
That's my sales for the past 90 days. So it's
Wow.
just right at 1 million.
And
I'm sure there's plenty of people who do like 5-10 million, something like that. And I bet Z&G he's dwarfing that by now.
You think so?
Yeah, and I bet he's going to continue to ramp it up. Man, his fees are so great. Like, I mean,
yeah. Well, I just sent him my first batch.
I know why he's doing it. It's a good plan. I couldn't handle that kind of volume. Like, I wouldn't want to. I would need employees, and to me, that's just so much headache.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've never seen. I mean, I don't. You don't have any employees? You have a couple part-time guys, yeah.
No? My mom, she works in the morning. Okay. She'll come over here and she'll help package up shipping and that kind of stuff. But no, not really. I mean, there's the guy who plays for the football team locally, and he comes in sometimes on Saturdays. He didn't come in today, otherwise he'd be here now. But but he's got football games on Friday nights. So I don't know, but honestly, no. I mean, there hasn't been anybody who's really worked for me more than just a few times in it, and probably since 2018.
Wow, is that just because you're just like happier? You don't need that. You don't want that stress. You're
if I had somebody I could trust, and they'd show up every day or consistently at the time that I needed them to, sure, I could employ somebody. In fact, I reached out to somebody this past week, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to come work for you, but my kids are homeschooled now," and so it's like, all right. And then I'll just forget about it, put it off. And then I offered a job to somebody else last night at the football game, the guy I used to know. And he's like, yeah, let me think about it. And I might. And almost always nobody ever comes back. And is like, sure, I'll take the job.
Is it more so trust of, like you just said, showing up and being there every day? Or is there also the trust portion of being around cards? And
yeah, there's a part of it that's trust. Some of it's showing up on time. Like I like things done my way. I've got plenty of monotonous work. People to just sort through random bulk. I mean, you saw that one wall. Like that's just all stuff that.
Excuse me, sorry.
All that stuff could be optimized, but it's stuff that I don't want to do because like all those energy lots, that was probably a dead time where I was like having my mom sort through stuff. If she makes 20 of those energy 1,000 card lots in a day, maybe we'll make $100-$150 off of that stuff, over time, but. Really, it's not worth it for me to spend a whole day to do that. So I just pile it up and it just sits there until, eventually it might get done, when there's some extra time.
Well, that used to be worth your time, right? I mean, way back when you first started this, you were doing, you still kind of do big quantities of promos and Charizards and whatever popular items are coming out. But over the years, obviously, seeing a number like that over your last 90 days, $1 million, I would assume that number during the pandemic time was 2, 3, 4 times bigger.
No,
Um,
I just
no.
didn't have the inventory.
Oh, wow.
So like right
So,
now, I've
but
got more inventory, but the slows. I mean, I've got 4,000 items right now, but I got down to 200 items on my eBay during like right after the boom. It kind of started coming back down because I still wasn't getting product back. I mean, it wasn't worth it to send it at the $300, and then product. I still have a bulk order at PSA. I mean, they still have not gotten it back from the COVID backlog. I mean, it's crazy to think that this stuff is still sitting at
wow,
PSA. And they can't even tell me what it is because it's not even in the same system anymore, like the way it was put in there. It's so crazy.
that's ridiculous. So there's like, you have lost cards. You're
Kind of. I mean, it was through the middle. It was through a middleman. It was through Ludkins, but they got
okay.
it in right before the cutoff, and then they weren't going to grade it. Then they were, and because of the way it worked out, like there's no access to even. I don't even know what they are. I just got
Okay.
back one of those bulk orders, and it was all like the pre-release promos and all the placement promos. It was like one of each. It was like collection stuff. So I've got a good idea of what it probably is. It's probably some collection like lots that I made for like binders. Because I used to collect one of every promo, one of every like ultra rare, all the way through EX series. Every variant of that ultra rare, that kind of stuff. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Let me just send it to PSA, let it be graded, and after the backlog thing, I got burned on a lot of that because some of those prices I paid are higher than the prices that are now. And if I had sent it off today, I'd probably still get it back sooner than, if I'd sent it off 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, we all kind of went through that a little bit. I mean, I loved using Ludkins because it was just so simple. And
Very unique.
I didn't keep track either. I would just send them stuff. I had no idea what I
Right.
sent them.
But it's
So
fun
whenever I
that
got
way
it,
almost.
it is.
Like,
It's
how
a little
much you're going to
surprise.
pay. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, because
Right.
you're going to pay that amount. You go ahead and pay it. You get it taken care of. When it comes back, you trust them enough. I mean, you're obviously going to
Yeah.
trust this company. Otherwise, why would you send it to them? Because if people want to scam you on this stuff, they can.
Right.
So a lot of times you have to invest in people, I think, with the Pokemon community. And at the time, Charlie was over everything. I trust Charlie almost as much as anybody else in the hobby. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say I would put him up there, as one of my most trusted guys that I work with. And, we're still doing business to this day. And like, I don't put any of what PSA's done off on him because he's taken care of everything that I know that he could have, with what's went on. But, sometimes life happens, and, between the COVID process of everything being shut down to plastic from China being, the tariffs and all this other stuff. And like, you have all these things that kind of come together, and it's really not any one person's fault. You just got to wait.
That's right.
That'll be a surprise sometime, hopefully within the next 6 months that I get back, and we'll see what it is.
Yeah, it's just the happens of circumstance there. Yeah, Charlie, I spent a couple hours on the phone with him yesterday. He's one of my favorite people, one of my most trusted people as well in this hobby. I put you at the top. You're, like I said, how I introduced you. You're kind of the person everybody wants to be. You're that perfect. Well, I guess no one's perfect, but you're that ideal business owner in the Pokemon hobby. I mean, when a lot of us first came in, we found you as a seller on eBay. You did a couple videos on YouTube, and just by the way you handled business, you communicated with people. Just as ethical of a person as you can be. So you kind of set the stage for a lot of newcomers like myself when I came in 2015, 2016 to kind of follow your footsteps and do business the way that you do it.
I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's shared amongst a lot of people. This actually came up yesterday. It's funny. I like the hobby has grown so big now. A lot of people don't know who you are. Like, I remember first coming into Pokemon, everybody knew who TCA Gaming was. Everybody knew who Gem Mint Pokemon was. Everyone knew who Charlie was, and all these people. And now it's gotten to a point which it's a shame that they don't know who you are, but at the same time, it's great that the hobby has gotten so much bigger that they don't
For sure.
know everybody, right? Because I think everybody needs to discover TCA Gaming. They need to understand you. They need to understand the history of Gem Mint Pokemon and the things that all these other people have done for the hobby. But um, you've also, I mean, you've built a big YouTube channel at this point now. You're at what, 76,000
Mhm.
subscribers.
Yeah.
You're doing live videos, you're doing all this other stuff. Has that started to, have you noticed a impact on your business with that, or is it purely just kind of a fun thing for you to do?
It's a little bit of both. I think that really kind of changed for me around the COVID time because that's when I believe the base first edition box opening was starting to get a lot more traction. I didn't see. I recorded that in 2016, I believe, and then I just kind of left it. I just did YouTube videos as a way of just kind of recording stuff. My very first video was the FPO back in 2013. I did it on like an old camera, and I was just like, I just need to record this, even if it's going to be absolute crap. I just need to have a record of it. And so I
Yeah.
did, and it got shared around, and then immediately, I started getting views and subscribers. So I was like, well, maybe I should just start showing stuff that I'm buying. And I started doing that, and then people wanted to buy stuff. This is back when you could message people on YouTube, and people would buy through
Oh.
there. And it wasn't until during COVID that I realized, okay, so maybe I could make a little bit of money off of advertising, because up until that point, I just never did it because I thought it was, wasn't worth anything. And so I enabled ads, and I was like, oh, wow. So I can see this actually grow. And every time I do a video, it's just extra income that I don't have to do anything for. It's like, all right,
Hmm.
well, let me look into this a little bit more. Then I found out about affiliate links. I was like, okay, so I can advertise for my own eBay account on YouTube, even if they don't buy my stuff, which if they buy my stuff, I'll get an extra percentage back. But then I can get up to 5% back from eBay on anything that they buy within, it was like 24 hours or something. Like, that's insane. Why am I not just putting this link down in my description? So I started doing that, become a partner with, a few other places like Google, Amazon, all that stuff. And I
Hmm.
was really surprised to see how much extra income just started coming in where I didn't have to do anything. And it also provided extra exposure, not only for my store, but the products that were coming out. And I could connect with the community more. And there's a lot of people in this hobby, I would have no idea who they were if I didn't connect on that YouTube level. Like, PK is probably one of my most watched people now. I just like listening to him rant on his
Hmm.
lives, and I don't have to physically watch the video. I almost stay away from those because it distracts me too much. Like
Yeah.
top 10 Pokemon, I like watching all of his videos and seeing the sales, and Pokemon Classics, I like seeing everything that he has going on the screen. So I almost have to like wait for an opportune time to where I'm doing something where I can open up a screen on the side. But like people like PK, and and others in the community, I can just sit there and listen, and I can work, and it helps keep me steady working. And now this guy, I mean, he was at my house this past weekend, and he's breaking bread with my family. It's kind of crazy how you take it from this surreal world, that's online, that it almost doesn't seem real, like you're playing with monopoly money at times, and then it turns into real world friendships and bonds that you can make. And it's the way people talk about me online, it's very humbling because I haven't done anything special. I've just sold and bought Pokemon cards, and I've been truly blessed in the way that everything has kind of worked out, and I got lucky with a lot of stuff. And to hear everybody talk about me like I'm at the top of the game, yeah, I appreciate it, and I definitely appreciate the way everybody talks about me. But I haven't done anything special. It's just been steady, just doing.
But yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you have though. It's that imposter syndrome. You know, um, I'll speak the same way to some of my friends about how it seems very lucky how things have fallen in my lap the way that they have. But in their perspective, they see the work that I put in. They see the the consistency that I've finally put into the podcast, and the relationships that I've built, and the work that I've done for different startups and all this. And it doesn't just happen for no reason. Like, it seems lucky to me, to you it seems lucky to you, but it's really not. It's that 15 years of consistency which the consistency to me in my personal life, my business life, is the hardest thing for me to do. So me seeing you be as consistent as you are for 15 years is inspiring, right? That's huge. And again, the type of person that you are not only comes off in the work that you do and the way that you handle your business, but like again, you opened up your house to 15 of us collectors to come hang out and spend time, but you can see not just the parental reflection of you and your wife on your kids, but it's clearly that you're just good people to be around, because your kids are incredibly polite. They were a joy to be around. I mean, there's so many
Maybe when
kids.
company's around.
Everybody's kids, it can cause some havoc, of course, but
That's all Anna right there. So
it really was a true reflection of just being around not just great parents, but great people. So it's not. There's a little bit of luck with all of us with Pokemon, right? We were all a little bit crazy, or maybe entirely crazy, to put as much money and time and effort as we did into Pokemon cards, but we did it for a reason. And sure, that little bit of luck maybe set us up to be able to do what we're doing now, right? It's really an incredible thing. And I mean, that's the one thing that I enjoy most out of this, is the relationships, is this person to person, in person contact and hanging out with each other, because there's so much interaction online. I mean, I've talked with people for years and never met them, and still, I mean, I still have friends that I've talked to for years now, and I've never met them in person. And when you finally get that chance to do it, it's really incredible. So the Rusty, the TCA Gaming Hangout is going to be an annual thing, I think, and you're stuck with it.
We'll try. We've made some more trails since then. I cut a trail down to the creek going down the other direction towards the larger part of the land, which I don't even think we went that way. And we got a little walkway that goes through a bamboo grove down there, and we've actually set it up for Halloween now. It's got some cobwebs and things. It's kind of creepy down there. It's crazy how invasive bamboo is. Where the bamboo grove is, there's literally nothing but that bamboo. And every now and then you'll find a tree that has to be at least 18 inches in diameter or so that it can reach above the bamboo. On the ground floor, it's just bamboo leaves.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it's so thick. I mean, I took my chainsaw down there. I was just trying to cut the bamboo and stuff. I mean, it's like fiberglass. As soon as you go to shred it and move it with your hands, and but the stuff won't stick to, the spider webbing won't even stick to it. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of fun going down through there, but yeah, I hope it is an annual thing. We had a lot of fun. You guys were great. I never realized it was just one day, and a lot of times I was being tugged around in different ways, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with anyone individually, at a large portion of time. But it was still nice to see you guys there, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as it was, and you're at least able to connect with somebody, even if it wasn't just me and you. We got to play a little bit of basketball.
Yeah. I wanted to get. I was ready to get into it a little bit more. Maybe next year, I'll get back in shape for next year so we can go at it a little bit. But yeah, man, it's really, really incredible. And then obviously the Pokemon you have there, which is, I guess, becoming more public now because you let us share pictures and videos of all this stuff. I mean, the uncut sheets you have, unreal. It's ridiculous. You mentioned your first YouTube video was these FPO cards. Those were those 5-card legendary collection packs?
So yes, I believe I may have opened up a 10-card pack. I can't remember what it was. Probably just a 5-card.
Where did you find those?
Okay, so there was a guy on eBay, and he put up for sale. It was for $59.99. There was a 5-card lot. It was fanned out to the side, and it said FPO on them, but it was 2 Charizards. It was like an Arbok, a Blastoise, something like that, Ampharos.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was Alakazam. I can't remember. I know there were 2 Charizards, so I snap bought it. And then I looked at his page. I saw he was selling Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Dungeons and Dragons. Those used to be a quick way to tell you that, hey, this might be a WotC employee, because WotC was over all that stuff. So I messaged him, and he was like, yeah, I've got some more stuff. And eventually he got my phone number. We started texting, and he sent me pictures of all the stuff that he had. And so he had square cut Neo Rev holographic foils. He had the Neo Discovery stack. He had the match prints. He had the FPOs. He had the FPO packs. And I was like, all right, so tell me, how do you know that this 10 card pack is FPOs and not just like a regular legendary collection pack? And he was like, well, these were all going to the shredder. I was a part of the design test team, and I physically pulled them off the conveyor belt before they made it to the shredder. And I mean, he had like these giant boxes of just like promos of the Suicune Forever promo and Recycle Energy and just Skyridge stuff. I mean, all this was just like they would have all these cards they'd go through for like the mock-ups and the designs and testing. They would just throw it in a box. And at times they'd get full packs of promos and just throw it in a box. I mean, he had probably had a dozen demo packs. He had a dozen E3 sealed Red Cheeks Pikachus. I mean, he was selling this stuff for like $50 a piece, on those. The packs I bought for, I think they were $50, on the 5-card packs. The promos, I think I ended up buying the FPOs that were out of the packs for roughly $3 a piece. Same thing with the match prints. I mean, they were like super cheap. This is the same guy who had that Japanese full uncut sheet for base set.
Really?
He had the full uncut sheet for Team Rocket Hollows. I've sold that one. He had the Exodus Test Foil Lands. He had Antiquities. He had all kinds of stuff. I didn't show you guys this, but I had a box up there. I was wondering, I was going to see what you guys would just to discover from opening different boxes, but everybody seemed kind of hesitant. But I had an entire box up there full of like WotC employee memorabilia. Like there was
Did you really?
I got a trophy from this guy where it was officially handed out from Wizards of the Coast to the guy for a go-kart race that they had out behind their building. Like there was T-shirts in there, and there was like coffee mugs and pins and different things like that. And he's the same one who had those. This would have been in the big stack of uncut sheets that I don't have frames for. Somewhere down in there, you got the play mats for like the Test Ancient Mew and the Gym Heroes and all this other stuff that was never released. But a lot of this stuff is just things that I acquire from being lucky, something like that. I was able to find that purchase before someone else found it, right? And then after that, kind of all fell into place, and he was willing to work with me. I still have this guy's number now. Like he annually meets with other WotC employees from back in the day. And, I kind of put in little plugs and feelers here and there. Like, hey, if you ever run across this or that, or somebody who's selling this, let them know, send them to me. We don't do too much business now, but every now and then he'll send me a text message like, hey, I found some more E3 Red Cheeks Pikachus. Do you want to buy these? And, what's a good price? And I'll send them a number, and they'll be like, okay, all right, we'll do that. You pay for shipping. And, just to keep those kind of relationships going, sometimes it can be tough. I've lost a lot of contacts along the way, but he's probably been one of the best ones. He's the same one who sold me the Legendary Collection mock-ups. I don't know if you found those up there. I mean, you've seen them in the past. They're framed, and it's got the lava and the storm instead of, or you got storm instead of. See, I look at it's magma instead of lava, and then you have storm instead of turmoil, and it has like the foil on it, and that kind of stuff. But all these things I find like incredibly cool to find. And when you do find it, it's like, you found the grail. Like, I don't know how much more of this stuff is going to come out, but it seems like there's more and more of it that comes out with each year. Anytime somebody starts, oh, look, we have a record sale for this. And then it pulls all that stuff out of the weeds, I mean, we had a Cosmos foil base set uncut sheet. I mean, I lost that thing and it ended up getting cut up, and I ended up getting one of the foils that way. The Charizards after it was cut and graded.
You got the 10, right?
Yeah, I traded for the 10, or I paid a portion, traded for a portion of it. But like, 10 years ago, I mean, there might have been me and crazy Pokemon trying to buy that uncut sheet. There was like no demand for this kind of stuff back in the day because it was just a poster. Nobody could cut it up. Not really anyways, unless you're hand cutting it. And then it would sit on a stack, kind of like the rest of my stuff has for so long, because they're hard to display. They cost a lot of money to get framed. You're not going to pay $200 for something and then spend $2,000 to have it framed up, unless you're Gary from Pokemon and you have stuff framed because you like it. And because I bought some Yu-Gi-Oh sheets off of him before that were framed up, and I think what I paid was probably less than what he paid to have it framed.
Yeah, it's really. Well, I told you I'm moving out to Seattle here soon, so I'm really curious to see what I run into out there. It's kind of inevitable with really just age and what, with more and more of that stuff coming out, assuming employees, if one employee, whoever that was, not knowing how high up he was, what he had access to. Um, and there was a good number of employees out there with WotC, with Pokemon, with whoever. So there's definitely still some great treasures to be found. I know a lot of people always say like, "Oh, those days are over," but they're not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really hoping that some cool stuff starts to pop up again. But what do you think as far as like the industry as a whole with Pokemon, with cards and all that? Because all these guys who are, I guess, now retiring, who created this industry, um, that are passing along selling these things, passing along all this stuff. What do you think is going to happen with like the industry as a whole? Do you think like people like yourself would ever start a company within the TCG world to build it up? Would you start a Wizards of the Coast type company?
Me,
Do you
no.
think like Charlie, you know?
I could work with Charlie. Charlie'd be the one who started up. Like that.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be my thing, man. I'm a pretty simple guy. Like if I don't have time to spend with my family and enjoy this wonderful fall weather that we have outside, like I'm not going to be nowhere near as happy as if I
yeah,
created a giant company and never had time to live. Like it just for me, no, I would never start something like that up. Um, I have a tendency when I'm into something really deep and it starts taking up too much of my time, like I'll go ahead and start phasing it out and pushing away from it. 'Cause if
mm-hmm.
I can't enjoy it, like I don't know why I'm doing it. Like there's plenty of ways to make money. You just have to be able to put time into whatever that is, and if you can enjoy it, it's going to compound. Like you're gonna get interest on your interest for your time. And
Right.
I have no like when we were I was doing the middlemaning thing on my website. Like I'm glad I got out when I did. I got out in July 2020. After that, I only did 2 more months for my patrons.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the backlog stuff, I was able to get almost all of my customer orders, save a few of them that I think I did a few up until like November or so, taken care of before the backlog really got that bad. But I would have been really stressed out having customer orders for 2 years, not knowing that, I can get them back everything and having to deal with the constant communication. And as it is now, eBay is already a stretch with all the messages that I have to deal with. But that's one of those things where I don't want to hire somebody to answer the question for the guy that I just swapped up their two Blastoise orders. One it skipped authentication. Now it's in Germany. And, like if you can't handle something like that on your own, then a lot of times it kind of tarnishes, what you have going on with your business. I'm not that person who can just fully let go. So I like to be kind of all in on something if I do it. So if I did
Mm-hmm.
something like a big company for like Wizard of the Coast, something like that, where we created a card game, or I'm not really sure what you're kind of referring to there. Like I feel like I would just be too far into it to be able to responsibly do something like that with a family, even with life in general. I mean, we're given
Yeah.
this precious life. I mean, we got to enjoy it. I mean, you've heard Charlie say, you get too stressed out about something, just go outside and take a walk. Like,
Yeah.
really good advice. Just go outside, breathe in the fresh air. Like, I don't exercise as much as I want to because of Pokemon. And I
Yeah.
have to keep that in check. Like I play basketball maybe once a week, and that's about all the exercise I get. I don't know if you saw the pull-up bar. I put that specifically right there so that anytime I go in that room, I'm going to do some pull-ups because
Yeah.
I need to get some kind of workout in. And if I can figure out something that's not super time, it doesn't take up too much of my time. Like I can get it done in 10 or 15 seconds. Like I can
Yeah.
compromise with that and continue working. But most of the
Right.
time, if you got to work out with like you got to go to a gym. You have to stop what you're doing, go out there, get dressed or whatever, go work out. Then you got to come back, take a shower because you're all sweaty and you can't be sitting around handling cards with sweaty arms and hands. And so, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
just too much time for me. But so, just to take up even more time away from, being able to focus on my family and my overall health, like, no, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. You gotta work out while you can. Go do a push up every time you're waiting for a label to be printed or something up. you know, you gotta figure out fun ways to get that workout in while you're working. Um, yeah. Your Pokemon, like you're happy, you're content, you're happy with where you're at with your Pokemon business. You don't really have any more aspirations to grow it much larger, or you're just at
Well,
this point where you're
I mean, I do have some goals. I mean, right now I'm still trying to just make it through all the backlog of cards that are graded and have them on my eBay. Like I'm up to almost 4,000 listings now, which is more
Hmm.
than I've been at since I decided to go from raw, like to take all the raw cards off and go back to like mostly graded. So right now that's a lot of listings, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to sell all that at once either because there's a lot of
If,
stuff. But
is
so
that all going to the vault? Is that all? Is it mix? Is it a mixture?
no, that's just all stuff that I have like on my eBay. I would say there's maybe 500 of those listings in the eBay vault,
Okay.
something like that. In which a
Because
lot of
they
the
still
eBay
have
vault
their.
stuff I don't even have up for sale. Like I've just kind of got pulled off right now. I wish
Okay.
I would. I got in so early with that. They didn't have the capability of me sending pictures to them. And I would have loved to put in my own scans because I really don't like their pictures. And there's
Mm,
still a lot of other things with the vault that are kind of messed up, like
yeah.
deactivated certs. They don't know what to do with that. I have some items that show up that are in the vault, but when I list them, they don't show up in the vault. So they're going to show up on my end to ship if they sell. And
Yeah.
I've had an issue with that before. And I've gotten defects for stuff that was in the vault that didn't ship because it was saying that I was supposed to ship out. There's some glitches still kind of in the system, and
Mm,
same thing with like the international shipping. They still haven't got that figured out, so it only shows up
yeah.
to part of the world. So I mean, you're excluding a large portion of it, and then thankfully, I mean, if you're in there selling now and you have a rep, like there are certain ways that you can have that title corrected to have the correct key terms. But the way it is, and they import it, a lot of those guys, they're sports. They're pulling over
Hmm.
similar sports titles. Is the same with PSA. The way that they label stuff is like year first, and then it's like Pokemon TCG card stuff, and stuff that really shouldn't be at the beginning of. You want to have your generic terms at the end of the title. You want to have your more specific the terms that people are going to search to find your exact item at the beginning. Then there's other key things that they don't know about, like variations and errors that would go in the title that necessarily wouldn't be pulled through.
Yeah. Well, it's always frustrating with new things like that. I mean, especially with how large eBay is, but still, it's great that they're innovating and trying to make our lives easier as sellers, right?
And
I
it's
mean, I've
understandable too, because I mean,
yeah.
like I've almost had a full alpha set, but I couldn't tell you all the different variations. Like I think there's like 10 different
Hmm.
cards in the set that have errors and variations, and I was buying and selling them for several years, and I still don't know some of that information that you would need to know for that kind of stuff in the titles. Where we would think Red Cheeks Pikachu and No Damage Ninetales, like that's just like secondhand knowledge for many people that are deep in the
Right.
hobby like us, but for the majority of people, like, what are you talking about? No damage. What does that
Yeah.
even mean? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It still goes way over their heads. So as a collector, because you're still a collector too. I mean, I'd say you collect sheets that are pretty unique things. How do you feel about items being in the vault? Um, as far as the collector side of things, because like for the business, it's fantastic. Hands off. You don't have to touch things. It just gets passed back and forth between people's vaults. You don't have to ship. I mean, right now there's lower fees for those who are selling through the vault. But as far as a collector, if you're buying something and storing it in the vault, is that something you would care to do?
Logically, it makes sense if it's safe and insured, but no, I don't. I
Yeah.
like having the stuff in hand so I can look at it, so I can kind of go through, reorganize stuff. That's almost like therapeutic for me. I remember as a kid when I used to have binders, and I did this more so with Yu-Gi-Oh than Pokemon because I was a little bit older with the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. But anytime
Mm.
I get cards in, like I love the 3-ring binders. I get it. People don't like the binder damage, but if you've been around a 3-ring binder for more than 5 minutes, you know how to open and close those things and hold the pages without damaging them with the rings. Like
Yeah.
as kids, you may not know that, but if 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 you've been around them, like you don't snap them on the cards, you don't slam the binder shut. But yeah, I mean, I get why people don't like them, but I like them because I liked having all of my stuff organized. And anytime I bought a new set, another pack, whatever, or I traded for something, I like putting it in the binder where it's supposed to go. And I liked
Right.
having the hollows together. I liked having sets together. Sometimes I like stuff being alphabetized. I would go through and do different things. I would like having front and back. Sometimes I'd like only on the front. I mean, I would have all these different ways that I would organize it. But with the 3-ring binder, as soon as you fill up those first 3 pages and you have another magic card that you need to stick in there with your Yu-Gi-Oh, you can pop open those rings, you put in a fresh, crisp, acrylic smelling page that's probably riddled with cancer, and you stick a new card in that top left, and you feel okay with the world. Or if it's an alphabetical order, you can kind of shift the stuff down if you need to, or you can create, put a new slot in there. You don't have to like side pull everything out from the left and the right and the back and forward and rearrange your entire binder. If you have those side loading ones, the ones that everybody likes.
Yeah. People don't talk about that enough. That's actually the first time I heard someone really debate a case for the 3-ring binder.
I still use them.
That's very true. That I do miss. Yeah, you can move the sheets around however you want. You can. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. As long as you're not moving like 10 at a time, you're not getting the binder dings. You just got to be patient. Patience.
And even when I was selling, it was the same way, because I would keep complete sets in 3-ring binders. So anytime I sold a complete set, all I do was open the 3-ring binder. I'd pull out the set and then I would close it back. You can't do that with the other stuff. You just got to individually sleeve everything. But I would fold the pages back through, and so it would be a trifold, and so that would protect the cards as well on the way to be shipped. And I realize a lot of people are going to pull them out. They're just going to have them in like a little stack, but it's not as satisfying when you get a complete set. If you got this little stack of cards that's in your hands versus, hey, you have these nice sleeved cards inside of a binder that's almost like poofy because it's sitting inside of the extra sleeves, and then you can just snap it right in there, and now it's complete. It's on display.
Wow. You know what? We need to push the hobby to go back to 3-ring binders. That's awesome. Let's get the TCA gaming branded binders going out there.
Get Pat Flynn on, we'll debate it.
Yeah. Vault X versus 3 rings. That'd be funny. Because those have taken over, honestly, the industry entirely, those types of binders.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the one selling point, but
I mean, they're more resilient too. You also have playset binders, the
4x4.
The 3-ring binders, you handle in more than 6 months. You're going to have the binding coming out. I had so much duct tape on the binds of them from where they started to rip, down the side, from just where the plastic from opening and closing it. Or if the rings start going sideways, you got to start muscling it back and forth so you don't snap your fingers or the pages come off. I mean, I get it. I know why people don't like 3-ring binders, but as a kid, when I was a collector and I was buying stuff and adding it, like those were perfect. Like that's what I wanted. And it took me forever to even consider using those ones without.
Well, they're still doing them in Japan. They're still doing the 3-ring binders in Japan. And the other thing that I've noticed with the binder change is these new age binders, none of them are that cool. Sure, you'll get a Pikachu on it, maybe a Charizard, Pokeball, but none of them have artwork like the 3-ring binders used to.
Like the Team Rocket.
And they also, it also doesn't look the same either, because it's either like that leather, it's like that leather or that, I don't know what other material, but it just isn't like, the color doesn't pop off as nice. I have binders right here. Grab one. Like this I just picked up when I was in Japan. Obviously we don't have these in English, but like,
yeah,
the old US binders were like this in a way. Like they had really cool artwork. They had Ash from the anime with all the Pokemon behind them.
You should give them out at Worlds too.
Yeah, but now they're boring. They look like this. They're like...
Well,
this isn't that great.
The 151 one wasn't too bad. That one just came out. It's got like Mew on the front and the other Pokemon. It's kind of like themed with the sleeves and stuff. In which they do come out with some of those that have pretty good artwork, but most people don't order them. I get emails from my distributor about them, but like I'm not going to spend $15 on a binder and try to sell it for $25 and lose $8 in shipping and then it not sell for 10 years. I mean, it's just like there's no point doing this. Like maybe if you have a shop and you just want to spice up your racks a little bit, have something there, grab them, throw them on there. You don't have to lose money to shipping. You're going to have the occasional customer come by and grab them and buy them. But like the 151 binders, I think they look great, but I'm selling them on eBay for $11.99 free shipping. I'm losing $7 or so in shipping. And between that and the bubble mailers, I mean, I might make $3 on them. So you're having, that compete with paying $15, potentially for some of these other binders. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Is that is that the binder that comes with like 4 packs?
Yeah. Do you know what it looks like? You want me to grab one?
Yeah, grab one, because I all my stuff that I buy goes to a different location, so I don't actually ever get to see it.
Yeah, when I saw these, I actually thought about making
Okay.
a binder because I thought it'd be kind of cool.
Okay, but that's like the cheap kind of like plasticky cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then it'll
and then
hold
it
like
comes.
360 cards. Where a binder, man,
Okay,
that sucker can hold like 1,500. A
thousands.
3-ring binder, 2-inch,
Yeah.
1,500 cards. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they actually, I discovered they in Japan they actually have Pokemon logo sheets that go in the binders.
Oh wow.
I think they're old. But I don't know if they do that anymore. But it's pretty cool. Or was it? Were they either Pocket Monster or Media Factory? One of the two. But yeah, it's going even further back again to that guy you mentioned who had the Japanese uncut sheet. That seems interesting to have that. Like, I understand the ability to be able to pull things off whatever conveyor belts and all that here in the US, but getting an uncut Japanese base set sheet, that had to be quite difficult, unless it was just like a gift. It had to have been a gift, right?
I really don't know. He didn't say it was a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the same guy who had like the mock-up jungle pack and the mock-up clamshell for Neo Destiny. But I mean, I know that they did print at least German
Well,
cards here in America. I mean, I assume they didn't
oh, they
have any
did.
stuff here, but maybe it was something that was sent over for the design team. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I mean, he
yeah,
was a part of that. He
probably.
had Magic the Gathering. He had this giant portfolio full of uncut Magic the Gathering stuff, and it was like these giant sheets that were made of poster board, and then like you would have an uncut wrapper set for Exodus, and then that would be
Mm-hmm.
almost like taped to a board for display. Then he'd have a box uncut sheet that was kind of cut out, but then that was
Yeah,
taped to a board. So I mean, and he had Russian stuff too, like Russian Magic the Gathering. I mean, so it wouldn't surprise me that if it, since he was a part of the design team, if they just mailed him from over Japan, you know, he used this different
yeah,
stuff to figure out, you know, what they were going to do on the English side, you know,
right.
use the card, use the picture, then have to translate it into English, or, you know, whatever they need to do. You know, maybe back then when they were rocking the Windows 98, you know, sending the file just didn't have enough megapixels. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
That
probably. Yeah, they probably had their meetings and they had it up on an easel and they had all the different languages or something to see how everyone was doing it.
because he was there during that
Uh,
process, you know,
yeah,
before when there was a transition, all the way up until the transition from Wizards of the Coast to Pokemon of America. But he was a part of the Magic the Gathering, which predates Pokemon. So that's
right.
the main reason I'm saying that. So I mean, that could have been something that he was mailed, you know, 96,
Yeah,
97. I mean, and you know, he was a part of the process for actually figuring out what's going to go on the cards.
yeah, and how it was organized, and that was an interesting thing that I actually noticed on one of your sheets. It was you have that first edition base set sheet. I believe it was the one that had the Machamps. That was half of the top half of the sheet, and then the bottom half was the rest of the set hollows. On the left side, there were like 3 Charizards, just like back to back to back. So it was really interesting to see the distribution of the cards, because I mean you can compare first edition, unlimited shadows, all those together kind of, and I, I mean I'd never looked that close, but I can't imagine any of them had the same exact uh, pattern of
Shadowless, I
Pokemon.
believe, had the same layout as one of the first edition sheets that I had,
It did.
like the
Okay.
Shadowless Unlimited.
Yeah, because I saw that, and Gary King Pokemon was sitting across from me. I was like, oh, I remember you said you pulled 3 Charizards from a box once. They all graded 10s. This could have been the sheet that did it, because there was 3
Right.
Charizards right next to each other. And then whoever else had the box on the other side didn't get any Charizards.
Yeah.
They get 3 Polyrats like PokeRadar.
Yeah.
Um, So it's really interesting to see that stuff. It's so like just historical, and you can create so many different theories just looking at this stuff. It's really cool. Um, is the sheet collection kind of, would you say that's your pride and joy? Is that like the one thing that you truly collect? I mean, you also have the Charizards, of course. You are the Charizard authority, or unofficially the Charizard authority. Um, uh, are those the two things? Is there anything else that you like go after to collect?
So the uncut sheets, those were probably the first major thing that I had set in motion for collecting. And I want to say that started maybe 2010, 2011. First couple
Yeah.
of years, like it was just strictly buy and sell. I didn't really keep anything for myself other than I did have a binder collection, just one of all the cards from the WotC
Mm.
era, in which a lot of that was still progressing. But the main reason I'd had that stuff was because it was so cheap. I mean, I was able to get every card, every variation from base set through Skyridge. It was for like $800 or something off of somebody in, I want to say it was in Europe, but like that included the no damage Ninetales. That included the Ghost Pikachu's, and well actually yeah, because the Ghost Pikachu had just been discovered by Rock Carolina, and he had sold that to me. But all that stuff kind of come together, and for that price, I was like, I'm gonna just keep it for myself. But yeah, the uncut sheets. I remember the first one that I bought was a Neo Genesis common uncut sheet because they were super easy to find back then. I believe it was Sports Values or whatever he was selling them for, $20 or $30. I think it was closer to $30. And then I messaged him, and because I was able to buy 50 or so at a time, he'd sell them to me for $20 a piece, and I would do it in a payment plan. And so I had a couple hundred there for a while, and then he still had more. He kept coming out with more, and I was like, all right, I can't take any of them. So he started cutting them up, and he couldn't sell those pieces for like $5, $10 a piece. And now they're going for like hundreds of dollars, those pieces that were cut off of the sheets. And I sold a lot of my Neo Genesis common sheets. I started out at 50, then I got up to like 100 and 200. Then I ended the listing after I sold 50 or so of them. And over the years, I've kind of pieced them out. But the last few I've sold have been over $2,000. And that's probably one of the most common sheets out there. Of course, Fossil, the KB Toys, that's going to be, the most common. It's really the only one that was printed and officially released by Pokemon that I know of. I mean, you have other sheets that were given out at tournaments and stuff, but they say it's 1,000 copies, but I would say there's probably more of those than that out there with as many as we've seen come up. But again, 1,000 wouldn't be too surprising for me because I haven't seen 1,000 copies myself. But back then, you could get those sheets for $50. I mean, that was just pretty much the going price for a lot of stuff. And so for me, I thought it was amazing. When I got one in, I was like, wow, this is like a huge poster of cards that are all uncut. It's like in their original state. I'm going to have to get more of these. And so I started buying as many uncut sheets as I could whenever I could. And man, I ran into Crazy Pokemon, man. He put that name to the test. The uncut Pokemon sheet guy, Mr. Andrew. Me and him, we butted heads quite a few times. But I think he butted heads with a lot of people. But we actually ended up doing a few deals together. I remember I bought 8 sheets off of a guy in Hawaii. And the way it's going to work out, I got first dibs, or I think maybe he picked the first sheet, and then I picked the second, he picked the third, or whatever. I paid for the entire thing, but he would get half of the sheets. So he didn't have to pay anything, and he got half the sheets. And this included, there was like 2 PCD base set hollow uncut sheets. There were a couple of Fossil, I think a couple of Jungle. I can't remember what all was there.
Did he make the connection happen?
He made the connection happen, and then I paid for it, and then he got half of the sheets. And the guy that I was talking with, he was like, man, why are you giving him half the sheets? I'll just sell them to you. And I was like, well, I told him, this is my word. And man, he got so mad at me because I didn't let him pick the first 4 sheets that out of the entire deal. And I'm like, you're not going to take all the base set sheets. And like, I'm paying for this out of pocket 100%, and you get half of the sheets for free. And you even get, the first pick or whatever. So he ended up getting like 2 of the 3 base set sheets. I got one of them. He got mad that I got one of them. And in fact, I think it may have been 2 base set full hollow sheets, and then 3 PCDs. And then maybe there was like 2 Jungle, 2 Fossil Aerodactyls. There were 8 sheets total, something like that. But I ended up getting one of the base set sheets. And I think the others were like the Kangaskhan, Vaporeon stuff. So, I mean, I've got a lot of stories like that where it's really cool just knowing where some of these sheets come from. And only years later did I find out like that Jungle uncut sheet has upside down backsides. I found that out within the past few months when I went to go put it into that case. that's when I figured out I had upside down backsides. And I have a similar story with the base set hollow sheet. I was going to sell it to somebody, and I was doing a video, and I returned it over, and I'm like, wait a minute, these Pokeballs are upside down, and I'd had that sheet for 3 or 4 years, and it was like I had no idea. And so I'm going to hold off on selling that one. And there's probably still other things on the uncut sheets that I have laying flat in that stack that I don't realize are there because I haven't had a chance to really analyze them. Because anytime you move those things, I mean, you're probably going to damage them in some little way. And they're just huge. They're hard to store. They're hard to keep up. And so I just leave them flat in a dark place for the most part, other than the ones that those cases have been made for.
Yeah. Literally, they're just sitting in a dark corner in a stack on another box. They're sitting there. It's really barbaric, but what else are you gonna do? So it fits. I mean, what's your favorite sheet? Because you have some really cool ones.
I mean, I'd probably say the base first edition sheets. I like those, for base set, but probably my most memorable sheet I would say is the Ancient Mew.
Yeah,
that was the
I was
first
say that one.
big sheet purchase that I had ever made. I bought that off of the previous print production manager. And when you get to Washington, I may be sending you an address for you to check out.
Okay.
Because this person had a crazy amount of stuff that was supposedly stored, like ridiculous product. I mean, it would dwarf anything that I have if she pulls it out. So.
Okay.
But I think she's
we'll make that connection happen.
She may not be.
Oh, really?
Okay.
But
anyways, and I bought that one for $1,250 if I remember correctly. I made 5 payments of $250, and it was like $250 a month. So I mean, this was maybe 2013 or so. That was a lot of money for me back then. I was buying a lot of stuff off of this person. But yeah, I bought that sheet, and I remember this. This is going to sound terrible, but I got the sheet in, and I was holding it outside of my house. My wife was there with me. We weren't married just yet. She was my fiance. And I asked her to take a picture as I'm holding it. And I don't know what was said, but she got mad. And I must have smarted off to her. And she's a pistol. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm more reserved for the most part.
Yeah.
And she'll tell you how it is in a heartbeat. But I said something, and she just grabbed that sheet and she just jerked it back, and I'm like, "Did you just do that? Did you just put a bin?" And I think there's still a little upside down, kind of like a carrot key near the top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You just bent this. I spent 5 months paying this off." And she was immediately sad, but at the same time, you could tell she was still mad about what I had said to her, and I let it go. But that's why I specifically remember that one, because it took so long for me to pay it off. And, that there was my wife kind of involved, and she was trying to take a picture. She was happy for me. She was mad at what I said. Then she was sad about what she did. Still kind of mad at me because I hadn't apologized. And at the end of the day, it's just an uncut sheet. It's got a white backside. It's like test print. So it'd be one of those things where if it did ever get cut up, it'd be kind of cool because it would have that white backside. But anybody could also replicate that by just taking the color entirely off of a card with acetone. So it's but I've yet to fold into cutting one of my sheets, but I realize there's so much potential in it because I've got a lot of other test sheets that have product on them that have never been released, like the Australian first edition base set English sheet. I don't know if you saw that when you were here, but I've got a first edition shadowed print run of the original Australian base set.
Oh.
And it's got first edition stamps on it. And one of the cards on it is like a Diglett or something that's got an error, or the Growlithe. I think I think it might be Growlithe. It's Growlithe or Diglett. One of them has the wrong energy type on it, but that almost kind of dwarfs in comparison to what the potential of that is. It means, there was an English shadowed print run, as I was told by the person that I may see if you can find. Apparently, she may have had 5 complete sets stored in a vault.
Oh. Wow.
The entire base set, first edition shadowed print run. Never confirmed it, never saw pictures. That sheet that I have is really the only evidence I have of potentially that set being printed. I've never had it authenticated. It looks real to me. I don't know why anybody would have faked it. It's got a big center of just test color bars, prints. It's kind of weird how the sheet is printed, but That would probably be
Interesting.
another sheet that is one of my favorites, just because I've never seen anything else like it. But we've always kind of heard in the background, there's been rumors of a first edition base set that was printed with the shadow, but that's the only evidence I've ever been able to find of it.
Okay, gotcha. God, that's very that's interesting. I can't wait to get to Washington to see what can be found. So yeah, that was going to be my next question for you, because cutting up sheets, it's very tempting. The amount of money, I mean, that's what you mean by potential, right? Is the financial incentive behind cutting a sheet. Um, it the gap between what uncut sheets are selling for versus what you could sell the individual cards for is quite significant. I mean, it is very expensive and very stressful to get a sheet cut professionally. You need to have proper connections and, again, the funds to get that done. But I own one uncut sheet. I own a Machamp shadowed starter deck hollow Machamp sheet. I probably could not sell that for more than 5 or 6K in today's market. But if I were to sell the individual cards, I could easily get over 10,000, because there's 110 cards on the sheet. I'd imagine people would easily pay $100 for a square cut Machamp.
They would.
I'm sure they would pay way more, maybe 300, 400, 500, depending on the condition as well. So it sucks where it's destroying kind of some history behind these items, because there is that financial incentive of cutting them up. But also it's just so hard to pass up on, because then, but it's also cool though too, where you have the individual cards out there.
Yeah.
Because they are official cards. So having these test prints out there for people that want to collect the set or just have their favorite Pokemon, and spread the love. So there is a positive narrative behind cutting up sheets as well, not just a financial incentive. There is a positive collecting incentive as well, to have a full set, to have a binder set, to have the highest graded set, whatever it may be. So there's positive and negative on both sides, obviously, but yeah, it's a tough battle, because I've considered it a lot with the Machamp sheet, cutting it up and getting the best graded one for myself. I like someone like Jim at Pokemon. He'd love to add one to his collection, a square cut Machamp. That's one he doesn't have, he said to me. So like,
well, you should have one
getting,
now.
Or I guess, right.
Last year, I mean, I sent him off with one. It was like it was like shifted up, but it was still a square cut with down.
Okay.
I've only ran across 2 in my life.
Maybe he's forgotten about it then. It's probably sitting in a pile.
It probably is, yeah. But
yeah,
to touch on what you're saying there is like the main incentive that I would want to have before I would ever consider cutting something up that's historical, like that, would be, what play with my family and making my life better could I make with that? Like if I could get $1 million guaranteed out of something and then set it in a bank and then have that interest change, my family's life, to make it to where I can spend more time with my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old and my wife, and watch them, instead of watching them grow up, actually, just be there more, be able to take extra lunch dates with them, go to the parks and go climb rocks and do all these different things, on Saturdays and Fridays and maybe even Thursday afternoons if we want to. That would be the biggest motivator for me to cut up a sheet like that. But the other thing that's also playing in the back of my mind is, how far behind is Pokemon in the overall collectible market? I mean, what's the top? It's art, right?
Yeah.
To me, this is the closest thing that you have to art in Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the actual art, from the artists themselves. But with the trading cards, these uncut sheets, you want to display them. Like you want to take this and make it a statement piece and put it up on the wall. So I think that it's a very real possibility that somewhere down the road that people appreciate these as pieces of historical artwork that are for display. I don't know if something like that would even happen in our lifetime. It could happen in the next 5 years. Who knows? But if you think about the stuff, that really is super expensive with art. A lot of times it's really old. It takes years and years. It'd be like one of those things. What if Pokemon does die in the next 50 years and it kind of just goes away? It was a fad. 500 years down the road, people will look back on the craze of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they could find an original uncut sheet. That's something that wouldn't affect me because I'm not going to live to be 500 years old. But at the same time, what if it was still out there and somebody could find it, tucked away in somebody's vault, then bring it back to light, breathe new life into Pokemon. I think that would be it's just kind of cool to think about, even though it's really not relevant to today's time. It's one of those things where I originally set out to buy these because I thought everybody was cutting them up. That was the narrative that was being spun in the Pokemon community, but I don't know if people were or not. Nobody was really selling square cuts, and even if they were super cheap. They wasn't worth it. And if they did, they were doing a really good job of the square cuts that were out there because they seemed really nice and very well centered, and a lot of them were cut up. So the people who were spinning that narrative, I think it was just secondhand stuff, but I believed it, and I wanted to buy the stuff. I wanted to stop people from cutting all the last of the sheets up. I had no idea there were so many out there. I mean, there's a lot of uncut sheets out there.
A lot more have popped up for sure. But yeah, I mean, what is going to happen in our lifetime though is we're gonna have a museum, whether it's whether it's us, just like me, you, big collectors, right? We're gonna create a museum at some point in our lives because like you said, that appreciation that you have for those specific things, the appreciation that Jake Pokenomic has for certain things, and Charlie and Zach and me and whoever else in the world of collecting, new people who might come in, there's going to be a museum that happens, and it's going to be really, really awesome. I'm very excited for it when that time comes. I don't know how it'll work, who's going to run it, if it'll be profitable, non-profitable, whatever it is, however it's set up. A museum will happen, and I hope to showcase, have a TCA gaming section or something, have a, this was donated by TCA gaming, and have just cool sheets or something. It'd be really great. I'm sure 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, it'll be out there.
Yeah. People have been talking about a museum for so long. Like, it sounds really cool. I mean, I would love to have all of the uncut sheets that I have just kind of like lining the wall around a place. Just have them all uniform for my OCD, and have them maybe not even the wall, just kind of maybe 5 feet off of the wall so you can see both sides of the sheet, because some of these have like
some
white borders or pink backsides, just different things that the backside is also, a part of, what it is and the historical value that those uncut sheets can bring, at least to Pokemon anyways. I realize we're still talking about, these things like they're these magical pieces of cardboard, but they don't really affect the majorities of people's lives in the world. But at the same time, they're really cool to see, especially for people who are so deep into Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon is the largest media franchise in the world, so I think it does affect a lot more people's lives than we know. And I agree with you as far as display. Cards are too small to display. Like the Phantom displays have made it so much better for me to display like single cards like this in the background, but even that, they're so tiny. So having a sheet, having something larger on the wall, makes a lot more sense to me. That will be appreciated by a larger audience outside of Pokemon, at least in that art world. But one thing I like to kind of wrap up my podcast with, especially now because we're older and we have, all my friends have families and kids and all that. We talked about this a lot with you, but what's it like being a dad and having Pokemon kind of be your job throughout your whole life, really now, where you're able to be home? I mean, at some point, if not already, your kids are already into Pokemon. I know your oldest was showing off her binder to all of us. Your youngest, he's 3, John, so he'll be getting into Pokemon real soon as well. But what does that mean to you, being able to really spend all this time with your family and work from home and do Pokemon and have that kind of impact your life.
Well, I think the time is the point. Be able to have that time to spend with them. And at times where I get too busy, it makes me rethink, some of my strategies and, what I'm doing and selling and is it worth it? But for the most part, it does allow me a lot of flexibility. During the week, I get up with my kids until they go to school. My wife, she's also working at the school now. So I'll see all of them in the morning pretty early. Then they'll head to school, including John. He's in TK, transitional kindergarten, which is before pre-K or whatever you want to call it. But and then I'll work until 10:30, sometimes 11, and I might pick up lunch for my wife and my son. But I go pick up my son at 11:40ish from school. So every day I get to pick him up, and then probably half of the days I'll eat lunch with my wife as well. She takes a lunch around that time. And then, I bring him back. I spend a little time with him while I work, and then I put him down for a nap. I get him up at 3 o'clock. Everybody's home at 4 or 5, and then, it's on the family time. So even though I'm still working a typical like 8 to 5 or 6 to 5 or, whatever you want to call it, I do get to spend a little extra time, around lunchtime, and it allows me the freedom, every day that they're home to be able to spend that time with them in the afternoon, whether it be us screaming at each other about homework and baths and brushing teeth and what we're going to eat, or, sitting down and watching a little bit of TV because it's Thursday and that's their Friday because they don't go to school Friday. And, all of it makes it worth it. That's for sure. I go as hard as I can during the week because I have so many different things that I have to manage with this because I don't have the employees. I have my mom who helps me out with the packaging, but I'm the one answering all the questions in the morning, packaging or getting the shipments ready, pulling the stuff out, doing the taxes. Then I've got the consignments, the videos, the pictures, the watermarks, the IG, the advertising, all these different things. They have to be like compacted into a really small time frame. And if I don't stay on top of it every day, then I'm going to get behind and I'm going to have to spend time in the evenings, coming down here, working on extra stuff. And that's not talking about all the buying side of it, placing orders, making sure I'm up to date with everything, making videos, talking to my customers, making sure they get paid out on time, making sure I pay other vendors, and then keeping up to date with anything new that's just hit the market. Like a felt Pikachu, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this new hat Pikachu that just dropped out of nowhere? Like, I'm not going to go spend all day trying to buy that thing off Pokemon Center. If somebody sends me a link and I click it and I get really lucky, maybe. But I'm going to be the guy
that's
looking on eBay when I get a chance. If I can pick up.
That's exactly what I was doing with that same one. Just hoping someone would send me a link and it would be available.
like, how are you supposed to get this thing? I mean, it's sold out in half a second. I can't just drop my. Like, it's going to take me longer to enter in my credit card details or log into PayPal than it is for these bots to check out. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
So.
I'm falling behind, man. The technology is. I'm feeling old. I can't keep up with these youngins.
Yeah.
Doing all the bots. It's frustrating, but at the same time, like, I get it.
That's their advantage.
So, yeah. I've had my advantages. They get their advantages. It's how the world works. So it's I hope to get at least one. We'll see.
Yeah.
They're coming down in price.
Well, I had somebody send me a link and then it was sold out. Then he sent me like 4 other links and like I was able to add stuff to cart, but then I couldn't check out. And I checked back like 5 minutes later and everything still said sold out except for one item. And I added it to cart and then it checked out. So I think I was able to get 2 of them somehow. It was like 5 minutes after when it supposedly released. So I don't know if they like restocked it because people didn't check out and I just got really lucky. But I think I was able to get 2 of them. I mean, I don't know. But I plan on going on eBay and eventually buying them if they ever get down to like $20 or so. But if in a month they're sitting at 50, I might buy some at that. But I'm not going to be paying $300, $100, whatever they're sitting at. I've heard a wild variance of prices on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've heard some. I mean, I think they're doing a better job of distributing them around the world and have pretty high quantities of them. So it's nothing that I'm too worried about. It won't break the bank to get one of them, and I'm sure I'll find an opportunity to buy 100 of them or something at one point to make a play, right?
Man,
so
you started talking about the cards were too small to to display, and that made me think about the STS band Sneasel. I'm gonna have to go message somebody, see if I can finally get one of them. That's like one of the epic items that's kind of been like mythical out there that I've never been able to have the opportunity to buy. One of those and the Dark Raichu, this like 6 foot tall or whatever. I think those would be super cool to pick up. Have you ever seen those in person or had a chance to buy
haven't.
them?
Well, I finally had the chance to see the ones that that big Charmander that you have. That's real thick too.
See, those are only like 18 inches though, and they were not. I don't.
Yeah.
These I think there's only 4 of the Sneasel, and there may be that many or less of the Raichu.
Were they at that? There was all at one event.
Yeah, it was like this big tournament. The STS.
The Super Trainer Showdown. Super Trainer Showdown. Yeah. When was that? 2002? 2003?
I want to say 2002 or maybe 2000. Might have been 2002.
Okay. Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2003. I'm not an expert on the dates of like all these old tournaments and stuff, other than the English verse decks, 2001 and 2002. I know those two. That's about it.
Yeah, I can't like something that large though. I can't imagine somebody walking away with. I don't know where they would be, but
I think somebody has 3 of the Sneasel
rotting away in a storage unit.
I hope they're rotting away in a storage unit, and right now because of the market, they are very motivated to earn some money. So
yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, there's other crazy things that I'm expecting. I mean, like sheets in particular. I want to find a reverse hollow legendary collection sheet. That would just be awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I mean, I've got those little theme deck test ones, but that's it. I've never seen like a full uncut sheet.
Have you seen E Series? Have you seen Expedition, Skyridge, Aquapolis?
I think I've seen an E Series common before in pictures. Okay. I want to say that one was in. There's like an uncut sheet gallery that kind of documents a lot of them. I believe there might be a picture of that one.
Okay, and then like Shinings from Neo, Crystals. We see so much base set through Team Rocket. Don't see that much Gym Challenge, Gym Heroes.
Well, I don't see that much Team Rocket either. I mean, I know we have that test double-sided sheet, and I've seen both the first edition and the unlimited Era Dragonite sheets. A few commons, but not too much other than that. I mean, maybe a Japanese base, or not Japanese, but a Japanese hollow. Team Rocket's not too common. I've never seen a fossil regular hollow sheet that hasn't been KB Toys. Not once.
That's interesting.
Every one of them has been from the KB Toys promotion.
Wow.
And then
Jungle, I feel like I only see theme deck hollow sheets. Never seen a no symbol.
Yeah. Well, you saw first edition unlimited at my place.
Yeah, but I guess in general,
I've seen a few first edition sheets for the hollow.
And then it skips. I've never seen. Did you have Gym Heroes or Gym Challenge sheets?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I've ever seen those.
I've seen a hollow sheet. I've been offered a hollow sheet before.
Ooh.
I can't remember why I turned it down. I might have to go back and look at that again. Because it wasn't too long ago. I want to say it was in the past year or two. I want to say maybe it was a Gym Challenge holographic sheet. Or maybe it was Gym Heroes.
That'd be cool.
It was probably
finding the corrected version, non-corrected version.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Charizard would be cool. And then Neo. You find a ton of Neo Genesis Unlimited.
Just the common though.
Or just the common. Sorry, I meant not how the common sheet. Probably from that one guy.
Yeah.
And then
Neo Discovery. I've got a common, uncommon, and a rare.
Yeah.
That I acquired in a trade. So I think I traded for the fossil uncut roll, plus those 3 uncut sheets. Right. And it was for like a base set box, maybe something else. At the time, it was like $2,500 the box. So they went up.
What a time!
I remember I traded a base set uncut or a base set box, valued about $2,500 for like, gosh, I want to say 11 or 12,000 General Mills packs or something. It was valued at like 35 cents, 35 to 40 cents, and he bought them for like 25 cents. And those packs are like $5-6, and they've been $5-6 for a few years because the supplies never ran out, crazily. Because
Well, you're going to be selling those for the rest of your life.
yeah, every now
You
and then
still,
I'll
you
sell to
still,
people like Old School or other places in bulk for like $3 a piece, but it's like 10xing, on the money, really, if
yeah,
you think about it. So
yeah,
just slow sell the
that's
stuff.
awesome.
That's what I did with a lot of those promos, and just bought them super cheap when nobody wanted them, set on them. It's a lot
Yeah,
easier for something to go from 50 cents to $5 than 5,000 to 50,000. I mean, it's just way easier. And with cards, or packs, you can just put them in a box and kind of forget about it.
yeah. Are you struggling to find that stuff these days?
I'm not looking as much because I'm trying to. In fact, you're
doing a lot more modern, I feel like.
I do modern, but that almost supplies enough. Like all the stuff that I get in that I can break down, I just pick out the stuff that I think will do a little bit better, and I grade that and kind of just move on. But I'm not sitting on hordes of certain promos. I mean, I guess I am for the ultra premium collection Charizard. I've got several hundred of those because I think that even at $10 a piece, that's a good. I mean, you're doing pretty good. You can make decent money off of them, but even at $10 a piece, with as much as people really like the artwork before there was ever the availability of price, those have a lot of potential in the future to be much more expensive than they are. And they're easy to just keep and sit on and not have to worry too much about the cost because you can recoup a lot of the UPC cost from the packs.
Yeah, I can't see myself just sitting on those UPCs. I need to open them all.
There's a lot of space.
It would save up a lot of.
I'm gonna have to open up a lot of these 151 UPCs because it was supposed to be here yesterday, but they apparently put them on a truck without a lift gate. And I'm like, I can't transfer. I can't break down and transfer 3 pallets from your truck to the back of my truck and then haul it back to my place because they can't come down my road. They're supposed to deliver in a box truck with a lift gate. Instead, he had a full 18-wheeler with no lift gate. So it's like, I'm gonna have to meet them locally, and then we would have to break them down. Typically, if they do the 18-wheeler by accident, they can just lift gate down to my tailgate and push it down, and then they can push up to 2 pallets into the back of my truck, and I'll just strap it down and I'll haul it back over to my house. But they didn't even have a lift gate, so this guy would have to drop 3 foot off the back of the truck. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. 3 pallets worth of UPCs, no.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I got some work to do every time I go back to Michigan, break down some stuff because it's becoming a bit too much. I don't get 3 pallets worth, but I get enough.
Well, those are just
to take up space.
They're so spacious. Like typically, I get maybe a pallet of product, but I have those, the Alakazam and the Zapdos, all in one thing. But like the UPCs, because they're so big, I think I'm getting like 450 of them or something like that. I put in for like 1,000, and they increased my allocation a little bit, but I think everybody wanted them.
So. Yeah, I think allocations are going way up, so be careful. That's what I'm hearing.
I was very
the next couple.
careful with Paradox Rift because I've been putting in high I think I put in for like 400 booster boxes because I don't like the set. I don't think it's going to be that great, but you never know. Maybe it'll come out and have some really cool artworks inside of it, and it'll do well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, we're about an hour and a half in here, so we'll wrap up. Rusty, I just want to appreciate your time again today, taking away your Saturday morning here. Thank you so much. I always appreciate getting to talk with you. I had a great time finally getting to hang out with you at your place during that Charlotte Collecticon weekend. So thank you again to you and your wife and your family for such a great day, all the food and fun.
Man, y'all didn't eat enough of that food. I was eating on that barbecue and the pizza for over a week afterwards, man. Like, I thought y'all were going to eat more, and then nobody did. So I was like, man, I'm going to have to eat all these leftovers because my family, they talk about eating leftovers, but they don't really eat leftovers, especially the barbecue was mostly meat. They eat more of the chicken. And then there was over a pizza left. And I was like, man, I can't let this go to waste. I mean, we're talking about meat lovers, stuffed crust, and then I've also got the barbecue. All I got to do is warm up, and then I had the jalapeno cheddar grits and the sweet potato crunch casserole stuff, and I was like, I'll just keep eating it.
I knocked out a lot of the mac and cheese, and then
there wasn't much of that left.
Yeah, but that barbecue was great, so it was fantastic. But man, hey, I wish you a great weekend. and I hope to see you again soon. I'm sure we'll be talking soon. But thanks again, everybody. Follow TCA Gaming. Great guy, great business, and you'll learn a lot. So check him out.